totally goes live or not. My hat is off to you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Yes, we're live. Hello, everyone. Tell us if you can hear us and see us correctly. And yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes, we're live.
excellent.
Perfect.
Well, my name is Neil Williams, and I live in Idaho in the United States. And I got involved in I've been involved in personal development for a long, long time. But then in 2020, when I had, for some reason, a little more time to work on personal development, I met Delphine.
Yeah. And since then, we kind of been debunking it a little bit, if I may say, and sharing a lot of our experiences and evolving then little
Oh,
by
yeah.
little.
Yeah.
And yeah, just following the flow of what came to our consciousness. And today, so yeah, I'm Delphine. I'm in, I was about to say Alsace. No, I'm no longer there. I'm in the south of France. My mind just gets confused sometimes. Sometimes.
Hey, you just moved. It's a good thing.
That's true. That's true. And yeah, so today I wanted to talk with you because you're American, and right now it's kind of a special time and a really agitated time in the States, because there was the death of Charlie Kirk. And also, I think it's a bit connected. Not long before, there was that young lady from Ukraine, and so there was kind of yeah, a violent time, I would say, that put America on fire. Am I correct? Would I?
Yeah. So let me give you just a little bit of background. Um, so first of all, one of the ways that I keep myself uh, flying on a high vibration, because last night I was listening to Abraham Hicks and was reminded that we need to keep ourselves on a high flying disc. We need to keep ourselves on a positive frequency. And so one of the ways that I do that is that I don't listen to the news. I don't watch the news. I don't read the news. However, I do have a very good friend who pays attention to the news, watches the news, and is very interested in it. And when something cataclysmic, something big happens, he calls me and he says, "Hey, Neil, have you been following the news?" And I tell him, of course not. But then he fills me in and says, "Hey, this is what's going on. This is what has happened. You need to be aware of it so that you're well informed." And I am so appreciative of what he does, because he allows me to focus on other things in my life and still be aware of what's going on. So when Charlie Kirk was murdered, assassinated, killed, removed from
Executed.
this earth,
Yeah,
passed on, um, gave up the ghost, when he when this happened, my friend called me and said, "Hey, Neil, this just happened." Now, Charlie Kirk, from what little I know, was very much a seeker and an understander of his truth. And he was very interested in conservative politics and Christianity. And he was able to debate and discuss these topics very clearly, very articulately. Yeah. And intelligently, so that he could convince others to his way of thinking, so that he could in so that he could educate others about parts of the dogma, the media, the assumptions that a lot of people just aren't aware of. And so he would take the little bit that someone understood, and he would expand it so that these, and he would do this on college campuses, he would do this with news crews, etc., to the best of my knowledge. And he had a lot of friends, he had a lot of influence in the United States. And so when he was assassinated, he left behind a big hole, a big sphere of influence that was affected by his sudden vacuum of presence.
Yeah, from what I understood, you really described him very well. He was a very peaceful person, and but with radical ideas. And when we say radical, I know that in French it means going to the roots, or the roots of things. And so that might be disturbing, and it was disturbing, obviously. And yeah, it was really well introduced because here in France, he is not, people don't know him as in the United States. And here in France, we have a very different society, and we have a difference regarding religion because there is the part where there is no religion in the state and it's written in the constitution, and it's very different from the states. Though we talked about his death, and you could also feel a part of the a part of the French population was really moved, and what was really uh, puzzling or strong is that it moved people really deep. It had a tremendous impact, but it also inflamed again some I was about to say passions in the hearts of people, but people have different truths, different passions, and so yeah, it has a really deep impact, and it hadn't been felt in a long time.
So it stirred some things up.
I think so. And you could see, of course, a lot of people talked about it when you look at social media. People are still talking about it. And the thing is, it has, um, we see like, again, two sides fighting again. And this is why our title is Resurgence of those old energies, of polarized energies. There is the right and wrong, and you fight, and actually who wins in that, because nobody. But what we don't see, a third party, we still, and there is kind of a pattern here, because people start seeing behind that violence, and that because history repeats itself, and people
Oh
are
yeah.
now seeing it on social media. Because at the time, for example, I'm thinking about Kennedy. We didn't have social media as today, and it made me think of that. And I wasn't even born at that time, but I could feel that huge emotion at the time when this happened.
Oh, yeah. Well, when Kennedy was assassinated, when Martin Luther King was assassinated, the Twin Towers, all of those are emotionally charged moments in time when if when as we look back on them from the future, we're going to remember those moments more clearly because of not only the emotional charge to me as an individual, but also the emotional charge of the people around us. My friend didn't call me and just say, "Hey, have you heard the news?" He was agitated. He was upset. And I ingested that emotion simply by listening. He lives in another state, but I can that emotion is transmitted from one person to another. And I think that's the biggest thing. We are all so much more connected than we realize, than we want to admit even.
Yes, and I think this is why when we have such raw energies, because we have some really cruel events, it's has an impact on us and even in our bodies. And there is something that is like just like when you get hit, even if you are not the person that is being targeted, well, humanity can feel. And but it seems that there are two kinds of reaction. There are people that are feeling the emotion and let themselves go into that sadness and that mourning phase, because of course that's human and that's obviously the most sane thing to do.
Mhm.
And then comes also, there are the steps I think of when someone dies. Comes the
Grief,
anger, the
the
grief
grief,
process.
the
Yes, thank
grief
you.
cycle.
Yeah. And then comes the anger. And it seems that the world often gets stuck in that anger. I was thinking after nine
Yeah.
eleven, then okay, now we have a new enemy and the world. And yeah, it was mainly the United States that got attacked. And then there was that big enemy for everyone, not just the States, that big enemy is here. Now again, we are Americans are angry, but it seems that it's like a collective that is getting angry and that aggregates, again, we were talking about. And so, but if we reproduce the same pattern, like fighting with each other, are we going to, yeah, to rise?
So I read a book a while back called Unclean, and it has to do with different Christian religions and how they separate out from each other. And I looked up at one of my favorite jokes that just explains so clearly, in my opinion, how we do this to ourselves. And and perhaps I'll use France because I think that you will understand this joke. Well, no, I don't know the street names in France, so I'll have to do it in the original form. Okay?
Mhm.
So I was walking along a bridge and I saw a guy who was about to jump. And I said, "Don't do it." And he said, "Nobody loves me." And I looked up at him and I said, "God loves you. Are you Christian or non-Christian?" He said, "I'm Christian." Brother, so am I. Are you Protestant or Catholic? He said, "Protestant." "Oh, so am I." "Which franchise?" "Baptist." "Me too." "Are you Northern Baptist or Southern Baptist?" "Well, I'm Southern Baptist." "Oh, me too." Uh, Conservative or liberal?" "Uh, Conservative." "Hey, so am I." Conservative Great Lakes region or conservative Eastern region?" "Conservative Great Lakes region." "Oh my goodness, so am I. I love you, brother. You're good. Do you go to the church on the west side of Main Street or on the east side of Main Street?" And he told me he goes to the church on the west side of Main Street. And I said, "Oh, die, you heretic." And I pushed him.
Okay, I
Okay,
see.
So we we look for the commonalities. I mean, I'm human, you're human. I want to be happy, you want to be happy. Oh, you're a Democrat and I'm a Republican. Die, you Democrat heretic. Whoa, whoa.
Because it's so easier to hate and to find, yeah, to hate and act like
It's
this.
so easy to separate,
Yes.
to separate, to find some reason to be different, to not, to make others not worthy of the love and common decency that we are all worthy of.
And it all comes to love after all. And because that guy, the joke you were telling, he just wanted to be loved. And that's what all humans want, you know? And
Mhm.
but actually, love needs work. It's not love like we know it, because between humans, what we see on Hollywood movies and series, and that kind of toxic patterns we see all the time. And yeah, loving is, yeah, I'm not the same as the other one, even though at first sight we make it look like, oh, we're so similar, and it's true. But in certain ways, we're so different, and this is what makes the beauty of it. And the most beautiful thing is to agree to disagree, find harmony in disharmony. And
Yeah.
this is just, I think, one of the things we are learning, and it's easier said than done, obviously. We've been at it for centuries, for thousands of years, and yeah, it goes back. But it seems that now should be the time we finally reach that level. It should be. What do you
Well,
think?
again, uh, personally, I look at it and say there, I don't know the exact number, but let's say 25 million people in the United States. Um, Delphine, you're going to have a certain number of people who are very wealthy. You're going to have a certain number of drug addicts. You're going to have a certain number of uh, murderers, thieves, prostitutes, educated, factory workers, labor, accidents. I mean, just the sheer volume of people. There's going to be a wide range of people. Um, my understanding is that, and slightly different topic, but 10% of sheep, and it may be 1%, but some percentage of sheep are homosexual. The females prefer females, the males prefer males, and they don't procreate easily. Um, Genetically, there's a percentage. Therefore, in the human population, genetically, there's a percentage. And as a geneticist, there's also a number of what we term birth defects. It's where the sex genes get mixed up and messed up and they don't do what they're supposed to. It's where the brain doesn't form properly. It's where the body doesn't form properly. There's just, anytime you've got life, there are going to be not mistakes, but there are going to be challenges, problems, transcription errors that make life difficult. And so you're going to have people, you're always going to have a bell curve of people. Most people are going to sit right in the middle inside that bell, but you're always going to have tails. And I know I'm talking about statistics now, and maybe people don't want to hear about that, but to me, the people who are angry are every bit as normal as the people who don't get angry at anything, who are meditating constantly and trying with and doing everything that they can to process the negative energy. Um, and I guess we could call them monks, uh, those who are working at peace assiduously. So you've got always the opposite camps, always the yin and the yang. You've always got the opposition because, as Abraham Hicks was saying yesterday, you've got to have contrast.
And yeah, it's like we're living in a time of great contrast, that's for sure. And it's
Mhm.
thanks to that contrast that people also, well, I heard someone say it now, they're reminded that there are some people talking about God, hearing talks about Jesus, and radical views that are different, and but also seeing that it's just for a few words that you can be, not tolerated, and we're seeing that words can kill. The power of words, what you're saying, and the responsibility of what you're saying. And this also connects us. I mean, um, you being, I don't know how to say that, but people have been moved to a certain level. And this is where we should go, is that nobody should rejoice, because that's part of the negative side. People are rejoicing because they're not on the same side and stuff like this. And of course, it's very human, but still connected to those old energies. It's just,
Mhm.
yeah. If you don't think like me, okay, like you said, you better die. Or how can we talk like this? Because if you're just looking, from a family point of view, it's a husband and he has kids and things like this.
Well, yeah. So, you brought up the topic of the Ukrainian woman who was killed on I can't remember if it was a bus or a subway, but
Mhm.
you know, 100 years ago, 20 years ago, however many years ago, when slavery was enforced in the United States, if a black person or a person of color made too much money, was too intelligent, said the wrong thing, looked at a person the wrong way, um, which by the way had nothing to do with the person of color, but it had everything to do with how the other person was feeling at the moment. Um, a black person could be killed for anything in the most egregious ways. And now we've got this person who was mentally disturbed, but he decided because that person's skin is white, I can kill her. Now, what demons was he fighting internally? He didn't know this woman. As far as I know, he simply saw she's got a certain color of skin. Now, having been raised in America, he probably didn't realize that that certain color of skin could mean you're like almost 1,000 different countries.
Yeah. And
I
that's also
mean,
because it's the globalization, Today there is no more people stay where they were born. And this is also the beauty of it. But here, you used a pretty interesting word. You say, what demons was he fighting? And also, I think what was really put under the light is that we have like a spiritual battle today. It's not just about those people getting killed. There is something behind, and there is something at stake that is not visible. And now people are starting to at least wonder about this, and that spiritual war. Well, this is part of it. And moments like this are major. And this is why I think I hear a lot in the spiritual community talking about a timeline shift, something major.
Mhm.
And yeah, this is kind of the event that made it happen, actually, or those two events.
Yeah. Well, you look at what Gandhi was able to accomplish. You look at what Christ was able to accomplish. You look at all of these people, Saint Jerome, uh, Saint Augustine. These people lived lives, not 100%, but at the end, they lived lives that were worthy of note, and they affected the people around them because they raised that group consciousness. They they transitioned.
Well, and you see, all those people you just quoted and mentioned, like you said, they transcended something. They were living their own truth. And and this is also why there is so much anger, because I think most of the people want to live like this. They want to, because I guess when he went up every day, he knew what he was going to do. He had that desire, and this is exactly what's named Napoleon Hill was talking about that desire.
Yeah.
He was connected to his truth, to his desire, and most people are not connected to their own truth. So when this happens, they feel so triggered by that. How dare you? Because when you're authentic, when you say your truth, well, there is no obstacle. But then, of course, the invisible ones, and you see, that are playing with it.
Well,
Yeah.
the obstacle is, why do you get to live your truth? I can't live my truth. And again, it goes back to the individual person. It's not, it's so Wallace Wattles says, if you're rich, don't feel bad about it. Don't give all your money away to other people, and certainly don't go hang around with poor people to assuage your guilt. Be happy that you are rich and let others look at you and say, wow, if he got rich, so can I. One of the things that I really liked about Charlie Kirk, and again, my interaction with him was tangential and fairly limited, was that he took his light, the information that he had, the things he was interested in, and he shined. He shined. He wasn't afraid to, or he wasn't interested in pruning himself back to make other people feel comfortable. He wasn't going to dim his light so that others' eyes wouldn't hurt. He shined, and they can either get used to the light or they can turn away. And that's you're exactly right. Napoleon Hill says, do the best you. Be the best you can be. Jen Sincero says, there's only one of you. A billion or a million, however many million sperm had to find one egg in order to create the one and only you. Your fingerprints are unique, your DNA is unique. There's only one of you that is ever existed in all space and time.
Yes, and when he was standing in his truth, I guess there also that, he was shining, as you said, and he activated things in people. And this is what disturbs so many people also. And they then would feel afraid and in fear. And this is where I think this, that old world energy fear. And he didn't have, he had no fear. And of course, he had people that would disagree with him, but it was like, okay, disagree, I'm going to talk, and no violence. And this is so much powerful. And in a way, it's very Christ-like because this is also the gospel of Christ. And many people are walking in that path. And you see how there is also that revival of those energies and how disturbing they still are. But even just saying the name seems difficult for so many people because we have all those beliefs, and especially in France, we don't want to talk about things like this, because religion is really, uh, yeah, we don't, yeah, it's a private thing, and yeah, and
And yet the history of France has quite a few saints in it. Um, and monarchs who became quite involved in religion.
yes, and paradoxically, I come from a region where well, Alsace, because it was part of the Prussian Empire with Germany at some point, and we have a different philosophy about religion. And because I could have some religion classes at school, things like this,
Hmm.
and this, yeah, I'll have to check this again, but yeah, we had a different policy. So, and this, you see, again, the impact of cultures and again. Um, but it,
And
yeah,
on that front, I'd like to point out that there's a difference between religion and spirituality. Um, to me, religion being man-based, human-based, I'm sorry, because there are women prophets and women founders, etc. Um, being human-based relies on the limited understanding of people, whereas spirituality relies on my connection with a higher power, be it God, the universe, the force, the vortex, whatever you want to call it, but a higher power who is interested in me. And whereas religion can be very restrictive, spirituality, in my opinion, has been very uplifting, very opening, very, very broadening of my mind and my understanding. You know, I read only the books that were printed by my religion for the first, 30, 40 years of my life. And let's say 30 years. And then this last 20 years, I have spent so much time reading outside of my religion. And what I'm finding is ultimately they all say the same thing. Religion is personal development. Try and be like Christ.
yes, exactly. But this is also why, at first when I started my journey in personal development, I remember Bob Proctor referring to God and as well the creatures made by God. And for people in France, this is really like, oh, it's like it's a sect, it's a guru, and because we have like we that allergic reaction almost, to religion. And then I started looking into it and what he really meant. He said, look at your body, look at how elaborate, how miraculous it is that you have fingers that you can do, you can talk, you can touch, you can smell, you can hear, you can feel. And then you realize, okay, yeah, it must have been, it's yeah. And this is when I started opening myself to yeah, what is spirituality? What is behind that whole thing about God and religion? Because I totally agree with you on that. Is yeah,
Mhm.
religion is personal development, and spirituality is when you realize it's all the same. At some
Yeah.
point.
And, for me, the big difference is religion is there's a God in heaven and he hates you, but I can show you how to get into his good graces. Whereas spirituality is there's a higher power, there's a God in heaven who loves you and has sent you, and not only that, he has worked with you to send you here to gain experiences, to learn, to grow, to enjoy, to experience peace, to experience fun. Wow. That's such a difference from there's a God in heaven and he hates you and you have to do exactly what I say in order to get into his good graces. And then you can only be saved by the grace of Jesus Christ anyway, so why even bother?
I love the way you put it.
It took me a long time to let go of my fear, and not fear as in respect, but fear as in, oh shoot, I'm going to spend eternity burning in, eternal damnation and hell and fire and brimstone and torture and anguish. It's depressing.
Yes, and your energy and your level of happiness. Yeah, it's not a win-win situation here, I would say. And yeah, this is why I think and spirituality is well, actually it's connecting to your godlike part. And I know that religious people really hate that thing about don't, there's God and you're not God. And it's not about this actually. It's just that you're coming from there. There's a part of source they call it source a lot, or the
Yeah.
universe. And yeah, and when you see it's just about reconnecting to who you really are, remembering that, yeah, you can embody who you really are, your truth, but it really takes, and this we were talking about last week, I think, those moments where you don't know who you are and you feel so many things that are triggering. And you have to go through this to really develop what we call, it's not even faith, but you just know it's your truth. It's true, And that was actually the problem with Charlie Kirk, because he felt he had that faith, that truth. He was so connected to that. He knew who he was. He knew what he was here for. And
Yeah.
this is
Yep.
so disturbing because most of the people are like ghosts in their own life, like extras in their own lives. And
In
he
their
made
own
them
movies.
exactly like our friend Bob said.
And that I'm really glad that you brought this up again, because the best debaters in the world, and I think Charlie Kirk was one of these, a lot of people are in the media. If and going back to the joke, if you start to say, well, I go to the church on Second Street, you go to the church on Fourth Street, therefore you're wrong. The interviewer will say, wait, 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 wait. Aren't we both Christian? Don't we both believe in a higher power? And you can do this with spirituality and religion. I have a good friend who he actually takes people out of certain churches, and he does it because they have so much self-loathing in that church that he approaches them, he and his wife approach them and say, hey, wait a minute, you are important. Maybe the beliefs in this church don't talk about a loving God. Let's look at other churches where you can feel love from source energy. Let's talk about other spirituality. Let's talk about other modes of practice that allow you to feel loved because you are a human and you are worthy of love. Just because your church doesn't allow you to feel that doesn't mean that you're not worthy of it.
Worthiness. I think this is such an important thing, and so most humans don't feel worthy. And this is where also religions were needed because, you become worthy, you become loved. You have, because in the church, well, you have people that will love you because you're part of our community. So you're part of the family. And and if people start realizing, well, I'm worthy no matter what I do, no matter what
Yes.
I am, I am worthy actually. And
Because the
this,
compliance issues were so high, so terrible. I mean, this I have another friend who he says I love Christianity. I love going to church, but every time I go, I tell them, one thing, and they say, "Oh, we've got to pray the devil out of you." Why can't you just accept me the way I am? And so he would love to be a part of a church community, but and he has so much knowledge, so much passion, so much information to share, but he's so tired of having the devil prayed out of him.
and you see, this is where spirituality is not the same because in spirituality, uh, it's just you face it. You face your demons because guess what? We all have good and bad, and it's actually when facing that bad, and it's not really bad, it's just the contrast. You have some feelings that are good, and it's just emotions you have to navigate to look at. And once you do that and you accept to sit with that violence, that sadness, that anger, and all those low vibe energies, this is when you can rise, and this is how you actually, yeah, chase the devil in you. No, you just clean it because it just needs, it needs love. When you say, oh, okay, well, okay, I was little, I suffered from that. Okay, but it's okay, Delphine. You're okay, you were little, now it's good, you're safe, you're loved, and boom, it disappears like this. But you have to go through it and face it and not be shamed for it because now we are shamed because of
Yes.
that.
Yes. I agree. Shame is quite frankly the the one of the biggest things that have struggled with in my life. And I was talking to my brother a couple of weekends ago, and I told him I have this thing that I do. I eat a lot of, let's say, chocolate. I eat chocolate and I feel so bad because I don't need the sugar, I don't need the calories. I know it's not free trade, and I just feel terrible about all of the bad things that I'm doing to the environment because I eat chocolate. And so then I feel so bad that I go and eat more chocolate. And then I feel so bad that I go and eat more chocolate. And so I keep gaining weight and blah, blah, blah. The easiest way to stop is to say, I eat chocolate. It may be bad for the environment, and I accept that it's bad for the environment. So I'll go do something good for the environment, but I'm going to eat some chocolate right now. And then I'm going to accept myself, where I am, what I'm doing. I'm going to give myself acceptance, forgiveness, grace, whatever you want to call it. And then I don't eat as much chocolate as when I feel shame, guilt, and regret for eating chocolate.
I know. I think address the issue of addictions. And in our world, because it's really intense, addictions, well, this is why the old world is thriving because people don't know who they are, so they compensate and they, oh, have bad emotion. I'm gonna eat, I'm gonna drink, I'm gonna have sex, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna hurt someone, and unconsciously. And also, when you follow your own truth and you start connecting, just like you're doing, okay, I'm eating this. Why? You start asking yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I eating my emotions? Why am I drinking my emotions? And you start
Mhm.
elevating. And I think that Charlie Kirk, with what he was saying and his message, well, he was like, okay, when you're connected to who you are, there are many things you don't need anymore, also. And this doesn't really please the current society, the owners who are we are a society of consumers, consumerism. And if people are like, okay, I just need to have that, and I need that light, I need God, I need, we don't need much. And this brings so much actually, because but
Mhm.
there is a consciousness that is throwing away the old world. And this is really what is coming out of this, I think. What do you think?
I agree with you. There is there is so much of the old world that was fed on guilt, and that as consumers, it's really easy for the somebody at the top to say, okay, everybody needs to wear a certain color shirt this year. And if you're not wearing that color of shirt, you're just not good enough.
You do not
And
belong to society. You're not human. So,
yes, yes, you're not human and you don't deserve to live. You don't deserve to be treated well, blah, blah, blah. But as you said, and I love how you said it, all we really need is me and God, and that's enough. Me and creator, me and my higher self, me and universal energy, me and the universe. That's all I need. I cannot tell you how freeing it was to stop using the term God because God had been associated with so much baggage. And in fact, the same thing is true of love. Oh,
mm,
love. There is so much baggage around that. Somebody introduced the word cherish. And I was like, I don't want to love my inner child. I want to cherish them because cherish is something that I use when I think about my kids, my grandkids. I I don't feel unconditional love for them. I cherish them. Unconditional love has so much baggage.
And what you said in France, it's so irritating, the words you use, like God and no, just God. In French, it's very irritating. You don't want to use it. It's like asking how much do you make a month in France. You don't ask that question. And people, yeah, it's irritating. And all that baggage we have. And also it's accepting because there's a woman I so much appreciate. And she says, stop talking about unconditional love because you're on Earth. You love the idea of unconditional love, but you're a human being. It's not possible for you yet. But you're on the way and let it be your compass for the rest of your life. And just accept, okay. And so that's exactly when you say, okay, I cherish my kids, I love my children. And as I can, because you can only love so much as you have been taught, and we need to unlearn our ways, yeah,
Yeah.
in order to be able to offer more.
And, I think that goes down to both the strength of Charlie Kirk and the difficulty that we as humans have is we believe we're speaking the same language when in reality we aren't. We can't. Because how you understand God, how you understand love, how I understand God, how I understand love, completely different. We think we're speaking the same language, but I would have had no idea that God is this irritating piece of grit in the mouth of French people. And you probably wouldn't have known that it was that irritating piece of grit in my mouth.
No, I didn't, that's a discovery, but good.
And yet, and yet what Charlie Kirk would do is he would go and he would find the common ground. Where do we agree? And then now let's build upwards from there. Now let's find other common grounds that we can agree on. And we can, and by the way, debate in the United States is taught in high school. So we really like the conflict, apparently.
We don't learn that we don't learn that in France. We don't learn how to debate. Um, we learn how to write, or maybe debate in an essay. But even an essay, we're talking to no one. We're saying, yeah, you can say this, you can say that. In conclusion, you say that. And all right, you debated with yourself. And no, we don't learn the art of debate. Of course, if you go to certain schools where you have to be able to make beautiful speeches to impress crowds and to get votes. There, you're going to learn how to debate and actually to manipulate, I would even say. Yeah, but
Which is a good thing. I mean, Bob Proctor manipulated me. I love it.
well, there's also always a kind of consent to what you're saying yes to, I guess. But yeah, interesting.
That's
Maybe it's a topic we could address another time about influence and yeah, manipulating. Yeah.
and who you give your authority to.
Yes.
Yep.
Hmm.
Okay. Well,
Well,
with that, Delphine, thank
yeah.
you very much.
Thank you. And I'll
Lively
see you.
debate as always.
Yeah. See you soon.